Hello. I invite you to continue this series of calm reflections on the book Our Home by André Luiz, a spiritual account of life after death, responsibility, and the long journey of the maturation of consciousness. Chapter 21 is titled Continuing the Conversation. This is a chapter exceptionally calm in form, and at the same time, very deep in content. We will not find dramatic events here, nor sudden experiences. Instead, we encounter one of the most important conversations in the entire book. A conversation about work, ownership, spiritual memory, and responsibility toward Earth. The chapter begins with a simple gesture of trust. André admits to Mrs. Laura that their conversation awakens many questions within him. He does not hide his curiosity, but he does not hide his uncertainty either. Laura's response is very meaningful. She does not place herself in the role of a teacher. She does not claim authority. She speaks calmly, saying that she is here to inform. And informing, unlike teaching, does not impose. It opens. This is the first important lesson of the chapter. True spiritual knowledge does not dominate. It accompanies. André then asks about ownership in the colony, about whether the house in which they are staying belongs to Laura. And here, one of the key explanations of our home appears. Ownership is relative. Nothing is given permanently. Everything is the fruit of work. The so-called hour bonuses serve as a means of exchange. They are not a reward, but a record of effort, dedication, and service. Buildings belong to the community, and a family home may be acquired only once, as a space of responsibility, not accumulation. This is a very important message. A home in the spiritual world is not a privilege. It is a commitment. Laura tells the story of her husband, Ricardo. He arrived in the spiritual world earlier than she did. He went through a difficult period of disturbance, but quickly understood that the only path was active effort. He did not wait. He did not rest. He worked, preparing their shared nest. Even before Laura arrived in the colony, their meeting in a ready home was not a reward. It was the natural fruit of work, perseverance, and fidelity to a spiritual bond. This passage shows very clearly that love in the spiritual world does not consist in waiting. It consists in action for the common good. Laura also returns to her life on earth, to the period of widowhood, hard work, and raising children alone. She does not idealize that time. She does not present herself as a victim. She states clearly that it was precisely effort, bodily toil, and honest work that protected her from falling into the umbral. That labor, though painful, became a shield for the soul. This is one of the strongest lessons of the chapter. Work carried out with integrity not only builds material life, it also safeguards the spirit. After years of happiness and shared work in the colony, however, a moment comes that changes the perspective. Laura says, Earth was waiting. The past demanded settlement. It could not be paid with our bonuses. The only currency was the just sweat of labor in the body. This is a very important explanation of the law of reincarnation. Not as punishment, not as coercion, but as a natural need for harmonization. The law of rhythm restores balance where it has been disturbed. Moved by this confession, André asks about the memory of past incarnations. Why? If he has crossed the threshold of death, does he not remember his past? Laura's answer is full of wisdom and care. Memory is not a reward. It is a burden. Too rapid remembrance of former crimes or wrongs can lead the spirit into disturbance and even madness. That is why only stable souls receive such memories naturally. The others are protected. This shows that forgetting can be a form of mercy. Laura describes how she and Ricardo gradually recovered their memory through examination, work, access to archives, long reading of their own chronicles, and later, magnetic procedures. It was not a quick process. It was not an easy one. It led to full awareness of 300 years of past experiences and to the understanding of how much still remained to be repaired. In relation to Earth, awareness did not come to bring comfort. It came to point toward responsibility. At the end of the chapter, Laura speaks of upcoming departures, of Ricardo's return to Earth, of her own readiness for another mission, of the arrival of Aloysa's mother. There is no fear in these words. There is acceptance. There is trust. And one sentence that closes the entire chapter. With quiet light, the Lord never forgets us. Chapter 21 shows us very clearly that spiritual life is not based on rewards, but on work that gives meaning to existence. It teaches that ownership is not a privilege, but a form of responsibility toward the community and toward oneself. It reminds us that the memory of past incarnations is not a universal right, but a gift granted only to those souls who are able to bear it without inner collapse. It also shows that forgetting is not always a loss. Sometimes it is protection that allows the spirit to mature without the excessive weight of guilt and wounds. This chapter reveals reincarnation not as punishment, but as a path of restoring harmony, a path that leads through effort, work, and honest experience. It also teaches that true love does not stop at feelings. It prepares the future through action, responsibility, and readiness for service. And finally, it reminds us quietly, yet deeply, that God never forgets us. even when the path leads through difficulty, effort, and successive stages of learning. This is a chapter that does not stir emotions violently, but it orders them deeply, and it leaves us with a very quiet, yet fundamental question. Do we treat the work, experiences, and relationships in our lives as a burden to be endured, or as material from which we build the future of the soul? In the next chapter, we will see how André gradually begins to enter into more conscious participation in the life of our home. The journey continues. See you soon.